the Fuel Sports Network.
Behold the King of Kings.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
I'm dropping the hammer.
No, you're not.
And that's the bottom line.
Here, have a quarter, make a phone call.
I have wrestled with an alligator.
What?
I done tussled with a whale.
What?
I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail.
Funky butt loving.
Did he say funky butt loving?
There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
Let the big dog eat.
Woo! Whoa! Woo! Whoa! Woo! Woo! It's time!
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today on this wonderful third day of July? Coming right up around the corner is the wonderful 4th of July for us here in America, our Day of Independence. It's a great day to be an American in the United States of America. We appreciate everybody joining us today. All around the place, all around the world. We talk about a lot of things on this show. We talk sports, obviously. That's one of the big things. But we also talk about some other stuff. We also talk about some movie stuff. We talk about some sports memorabilia or just memorabilia in general. We talk about a lot of different things. But and we're going to start doing some of that stuff. We're going to start covering some other topics and talking about some other things, and maybe some stuff that's kind of hot in the news. And obviously there's been a lot of things that's been going on. I don't know if you've noticed. Maybe some have, some haven't. But we'll talk about some of that stuff as we go along. Everybody, welcome to the Derek King Show. Wednesday at 9 a.m., like we always do. Here on the Fuel Sports Network. And, again, this is the stuff that you want to do. Make sure you go check it out. Fuel Sports Network on Roku, Amazon Fire. We got Fuel Sports Network, fuelsportsnetwork.com. Go over there and check that out. Lots of great articles. And you will be able to watch this show live and in living color over on fuelsportsnetwork.com. You could also watch it on Facebook. You could watch it on X, formerly known as Twitter. I don't know why people keep doing the formerly known as Twitter thing. I guess it's just because people had become accustomed to it. Now it's X. You get the idea. Let's just go ahead and get into it. One of the things that I do want to touch on, obviously, that we're a partner. We're an affiliate partner with McDougallBats.com. I love McDougall Bats. I use McDougall Bats. I have bought McDougall Bats with my very own money and funds. I have none of these bats given to me. So any of the bats that I have procured through McDougallBats.com has been with my own money. We do not take sponsorship dollars from McDougall Bats. But if you are interested in potentially getting a McDougall bat for whomever in your family that perhaps plays anything below pro level Major League Baseball, BB core and under, get yourself a McDougall bat. Go check them out over at McDougallBats.com. You can build your own bat over there. It's a pretty great company. I love working with them. Built here in America by American hands, by American products, with American materials. Go check them out. Owner John, great dude. Did it for his boys. Started doing it out of his garage. It was a really great idea. If you've ever had a chance to talk with him, have a chat, do so. Great guy, great company. So one of the things that I want to talk about today is that, there's a couple of topics that I want to kind of touch on. We talked a little bit last week about the state of boxing to a certain extent. I'm a big boxing fan. I grew up, in the 80s watching some of the great boxing matches. And I know there's people that grew up in the 70s that saw some amazing boxing matches, even in the 60s, which, depends on when you were born and, how old your parents were at the time. You got to see some of these amazing fights. MMA has kind of taken that spot over the last few years, for the simple fact of where boxing is and where boxing has gone. We always known that no matter what kind of sport is out there, there are risks surrounding gambling on that sport, betting on that sport, and the potential outcome of that particular sport based off of that money that's flowing in and flowing out. You could go back and watch a lot of different shows. One of the movies I would say to go back and watch, and this is going to be the movie portion of the conversation, is definitely go back and watch a handful of boxing movies. Obviously Rocky, classic, just watch it to watch it. But one of the big ones that I was watching here not that long ago was a movie called Snatch with Brad Pitt. And it goes to kind of show you, and again, it's this idea that they've created around what it's actually like. But in reality, is it actually like that? Remains to be seen. I'm not Don King. I'm not in the fight business. I'm not Oscar De La Hoya with Golden Boy Productions, in which we all know he's not that much of a Golden Boy anymore. Just Google it. You'll figure it out eventually. And so for me, I look at these movies and I go, wow, that was a pretty dirty game. Sorry, my nose is itching terrible. The hay fever's just been getting me something awful here this last week. How's it been for you guys? It's been terrible. Beginning all the rainstorms and things as of late. It's been blowing up a lot of stuff in the atmosphere. So it just makes it really, really itchy. But it's these movies of boxing. One of my favorite all-time boxing movies, obviously, is right up there with Rocky, but actually Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe. If you've ever seen it, go check it out. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie that really digs more into the mental aspect of what it's like to succeed and fail and hit rock bottom and then pick yourself back up and go back at it again. That's one of the biggest things that I would say for myself, that's where I enjoy a majority of what it is that these movies mean. Is it really telling a story, or is it just kind of sort of, trying to create something around the emphasis of boxing or a sport, in this case boxing, that makes it more than what it actually is? It's something that I would say to all of you out there, go out and watch, check it out, because it's something that I feel is a way for people that are novices to the sport to be able to learn something new. The same thing with professional wrestling, for example. We all know that it's entertainment, right? Okay, it's the cat's out of the bag. He's gone. The fact of the matter is that it's entertainment, and that's what it's designed to be, is entertaining. I will never, because I've been in those rooms with those entertainers and those wrestlers and everybody else. Don't ever say the F word, and I don't mean the FU word. I mean FAKE. Don't ever say that word around a wrestler, because it is not. That's the scarlet letter. It's the kiss of death. If you're ever talking to anybody in that sport, that don't do that. And it is a sport, because it takes a physical amount of talent, of experience. You can't just go get in a squared circle and just go do what these people do. You can't. I mean, these people have years and years of experience. They've been running the ropes, hitting the ropes, taking bumps, doing the things that they do, and they're good at it. It'd be like asking anybody else to just come out of the stands and start, hitting major league level pitching. I mean, have you ever stood in a box and had a major league level pitcher pitch you inside, go to YouTube, check it out, and see what it looks like from a catcher's perspective to sit there and catch a 95-mile-an-hour fastball or a fastball with cut, with movement. Because we all know how four-seamers are. Four-seamers are pretty straight, right? And that's the caveat with four-seamers is they're relatively straight. They just come in pretty flat. They kind of level off. Some will have some kind of movement, either up, down. Some will call it a rising fastball. There's no such thing. It just drops off a little bit less than a standard fastball. But two-seamer will bite. Go check Greg Maddox's two-seamer that he was pitching against the Expos, I believe at the time, and he was pitching against Moises Alou, and he pitched a two-seamer, and it was backdoor. So basically, instead of most two-seamers to a right-handed batter, if I'm a right-handed pitcher, you're seeing me as left-handed from this perspective, but as this is right-handed for me. So if they're coming in with a two-seamer and they're coming in like this, that ball has a tendency to move in to a right-handed batter. From my perspective, it moves into a right, which would be this way to you. So it moves into the batter, typically because of the rotation. But in this instance, he had a bad scuff on the ball because the batter prior had hit it into the dirt and scuffed the ball real bad, put a big gouge in it, and he was just happy as a lark. And you talk to any pitcher worth their salt, they love it when a ball gets scuffed up, because then, man, I don't want to lose that ball, because then I can get movement on it, and it'll just dance all over the place. You'll never be able to figure out where that ball goes. And so that's what he did. He went and he threw that two-seamer again, and instead of it biting in, it started to bite in and then came back the opposite direction, and hence backdoor. But go watch that on YouTube. It's over there. So getting back to the sport aspect of, and particularly what we were talking about with boxing, and the issue with boxing and what's been going on over the last couple of decades, has been this advent of gambling and the gambling aspect. And this is affecting all sports, not just boxing, but I'm using boxing specifically as an example, and how the gambling game, how Vegas, and I don't just mean Vegas, I mean Vegas as an overall scoping approach and mentality. It's not really just Vegas. It's the entirety of all sports and the gambling aspect of it. When you have that much money on the line, the billions and billions and billions of dollars in transactions that get traded back and forth, there's a risk that's been taken with the possibility of an outcome that the game or the fight or the match can be manipulated based off of that number. They do that scene in the movie Snatch. Go check it out. I'm not giving anything away in this particular instance, but they were trying to doctor a fight. And they were trying to set it up in a way where it would be somewhat competitive and kind of go back and forth, but then the guy would take a dive, a little bit later on, and he would get hit. He would go down, and then the match would end. And I've got $40,000 against this guy that's going to lose, or this guy that's going to win. Because you could bet really any way that you want to. You could say, well, this guy's going to lose, and he's going to take, you buy him off, and he's going to take a dive, and he drops, and you could even say like specific rounds, because in any gambling aspect, go check the book odds on any specific sport, any specific thing. You could bet on anything. I could go to a bookie and I could go and say, I'm going to bet that Aaron Rodgers is going to end up getting a concussion in game 4 or game 6, or he's going to strain his hamstring in the third quarter of the 7th game of the season. I could do whatever I want. The problem is that when there's somebody on the winning end, and we see this in the stock market every single day. We've seen it because of insider trading and the people that are in the Senate and the people that are in Congress, both sides, everybody, they're all doing it. And the reality is that this is the world that we live in. And a majority of people don't want to pay attention to it, and they don't want to sit there and go, oh yeah, this is actually happening. The manipulation of sports betting and what goes on. If anybody checks out Conduct Detrimental, they do a really, really good job. They have a podcast that they do, and they do a really, really good job on the legal aspect of sports gambling and a lot of different things. It's a little bit advanced for some people, and it kind of goes over people's heads sometimes because it's a couple of lawyers actually talking about a lot of that stuff. But it's really nice. It's nice to be able to watch it and get it kind of a better understanding, or listen to it, I should say, and get a better understanding of what goes on in sports. So with boxing, going back to that, if I was to do that, but I had an inside game to it, and I was in the sport, I could say, well, this guy's going to take a dive and he's going to do this. That's the problem with boxing today. It's the problem with a lot of sports. That's why you're seeing Major League Baseball starting to crack down on these players that are gambling and stuff like that. But really what it was the whole Shohei Ohtani thing. And I remember when Shohei Ohtani got cracked down earlier on in the year, and everybody's like, oh, Shohei Ohtani got busted, and all this. Then they started making excuses, and well, it actually was his interpreter that was doing it and all this other stuff, and he stole the money. Really? Do you really believe that? I'll wait, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing that went on in that instance that Shohei didn't already know about. Okay. If Pete Rose had an interpreter, could you imagine what he could have had blamed on them? This is a joke. It's a joke. And then Major League Baseball's trying to look like they actually did. Oh, well, so they go after a couple other players and ban them and things that they do. But for the perspective of, oh, well, we're actually policing this. No, you're not. It's like Major League Baseball really policed steroids back in the late 90s and all through the 80s and everything. You don't think they didn't know? They knew. They all knew. It was just the same thing in the NFL whenever they knew Bill Belichick was going around and videotaping practices and doing what he was doing during the Patriots era, during their big run. Why do you think for nearly a decade there that they didn't really make it back to the Super Bowl? They didn't really win any, they won, but they didn't really make it to the big one. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that the tapes were destroyed? Why do you think that none of that information ever got out from the NFL? Why do you think that is? It hurts the brand. It makes the brand look bad. They don't want that. It tarnishes the product. Major League Baseball was in very, very dire straits in the mid-90s after the strike, 93, 94. They were in bad shape. They needed something to launch them. Boxing was in a really, really bad state after the late 80s. Thankfully, they had Mike Tyson came in, and then, they had Evander Holyfield that was in there. Lennox Lewis eventually ended up coming in, and there was a lot of stuff. But there on the back end, a lot of that, what else was there for boxing? Same thing with Major League Baseball after the strike in the 90s. Once that happened, they needed a way out. And so what did they do? They called upon my good friend. I say friend like I know him. I don't really know him. But Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, right? They saved baseball. They had the home run race in 98. The experience of watching those guys just crush balls in BP. And watching just go back and look at it on YouTube when McGwire was at the All-Star game in Fenway in 98, 99. And he was just crushing balls over the monster out into the street. It saved baseball. It absolutely saved baseball. And anybody that says, well, no, that actually tarnished baseball, it hurt them. Well, right. Okay. Maybe later it did. But that's baseball's own fault, because baseball knew what they were getting into whenever they did it. They're the ones that are to blame for the way that baseball is. Now, do I agree with a lot of changes baseball has made? Some of them, yes. Some of them, no. The problem with baseball, and has been with baseball, is that baseball is not as exciting as it used to be. In this fast-paced society, in today's world that we live in, everything's bing, bang, boom, got to get it done, got to have it now, that kind of stuff, right? That's the problem with baseball. Baseball is a thinking individual sport. And now you've started to take the thinking out of the game, right? By taking the DH and putting it into the NL. And where the thinkers actually went to say, well, okay, how are they going to play this? It's a tight game. It's 3-2. It's in the 8th inning. You've got the heart of the order coming up next go around. You know, your starting pitcher's coming up on 100 pitches. You've got this guy that's a fireballer, that's right-hander. He's your setup guy or your closer, but you just pitched him last game and you don't want to burn him up because you're getting to the back end of the season. You get the idea. I don't have to go into every single categorization of why people enjoyed baseball and made baseball what it was. That is the point of baseball. That's what made baseball great. That's what made baseball fun. But baseball has lost that aspect. In boxing, during the 80s, you had a boxer called Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And Marvelous Marvin was one of the most fundamentally rounded boxers, fighters, that really existed in that time period. And he went up against guys like Thomas Hearns and Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard. And, you know, the names go on and on. The lists go on and on. One of the hardest fights I ever watched as far as boxing power is concerned was, in reality, was Ron Lyle versus George Foreman. And that fight was so hard. It's so difficult to watch because you could tell that those guys, every single time they were getting hit, you could tell. Go watch it on YouTube. It's there. I'm not going to play it on here because I don't want some kind of a strike from Facebook or YouTube or wherever it is that we're on for using somebody else's content. We're just not going to, just go check it out. You can see it on your own time, on your own terms. But that's when the sport was fun. It was unpredictable. You could do it. Same thing, you know, again, transitioning back to baseball. Baseball had its heyday. 60s, 70s were kind of bad for some teams, bad for baseball, really. Baseball really kind of was slow in the 70s. You know, it really wasn't as popular. It kind of came back in the 80s, obviously, because of the steroid era and stuff that kind of started happening in the late 80s. And, you know, the one to bring that around was really Jose Canseco with the Oakland Athletics. And the Oakland Athletics at the time were one of the premier teams in Major League Baseball. One of the things that, and Ron brings this up here, is, you know, the strikeout. Bring Shane back for the strikeout. See, here's the thing. They've gotten this philosophy in baseball that there's like 3 true outcomes, right? 1, 2, 3. There's 3 true outcomes. I don't believe in 3 true outcomes. I believe that the outcome is what your idea is, your thought process is, okay, what do I want from this? What am I trying to get from this? What am I trying to set up here? In baseball, you do have multiple different outcomes, possibilities. I've always had the philosophy of don't put too much stock in batting average per se. Don't put too much stock in home runs per se, but it's a combination of things. If I'm looking at the batting average, right, and I'm looking at the slugging percentage is basically hits that are doubles, triples, home runs, right? So if you're looking at batting average, slugging percentage, and a lot of people will say OBS, right? Some people will say OBP. I'm more of a subscriber to OBP because on base percentage, OBP, is a more clear indicator that you're getting individuals on base, or you're getting on base as a player. Now, whether or not they score you is a whole nother avenue. That's where the runs, the little R factor, comes in with statistics. And some people dig too deep into it. The truth is that a guy has to be able to hit for average. He has to be able to take walks, and he has to be able to get on base. The key is OBP. Because if you're getting on base, regardless if it's a hit or if it's a walk, what does it really matter? I'll wait. Because as a pitcher, everybody focuses in too much into wins and losses and ERA. It's the three things that too many people focus in on Major League Baseball. If Major League Baseball was smart, you wouldn't be looking at just that. What you would be looking at is look at your ERA. But a guy could still have a 4 ERA and have a low whip. How many innings is this pitcher pitching? How many pitches are they throwing on average per inning? We all know that some pitchers are very efficient. Some pitchers are strikeout pitchers. Some pitchers are pitch to contact pitchers. Traditionally, a strikeout pitcher is going to end up throwing more pitches per inning than a pitch to contact hitter. Why? Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm going to explain it to you. It's just simple logic. It really is. Because if I'm pitching a guy to hit, I'm giving him balls to hit. I'm putting them in the strike zone, and I'm giving him balls to hit. But I've got movement. It's moving around. I'm trying to get him to go over the top of a ball, to either be a ground ball. I'm trying to get him to get under a ball and pop it. I'm trying to get him to come off the end of the bat to be able to deaden it and flop it down the line, or get too far inside, saw him off. That's all I'm trying to do as a pitch to contact pitcher. If I'm a Nolan Ryan guy, I'm going to get more home runs hit off of me, but yes, my strikeout levels are going to be high. Go and look at any strikeout pitcher. You're going to see that their home run levels are a lot higher. Why? Because they're a higher velocity pitcher. If you're a higher velocity pitcher, it's simple physics, folks. We all did it in high school. We did it in college. The more energy equals in the mass equals into anything else. Or the more mass, the trajectory, velocity, you're going to have a simple trade-off of energy. If you have a bat coming through the zone, makes a contact with the ball, that's the way it goes. It's physics. That's all it is. It's science. It's math. It's numbers. Now, there are a lot of different things that go into play, okay? And one of those big things is bats and the product that they're made out of. They're made out of a natural product, right? They're made out of wood. This happens to be one of Joe Carter's bats from whenever he was playing with the San Diego Padres. That's all his information from whenever he was playing with the Padres, number 17. This is an Ash bat. It's an Ash Louisville Slugger bat. This is a Bear Ash Louisville Slugger bat, powerized. That's a TPX Pro model. That's a Pro Stock C271s. Now, why do I bring that up? The reason that I bring that up is bat speed and mass. Simple physics. It's when you are doing this stuff and you're using different bats, you're using maples, you're using ashes, you're using a composite bat like a McDougall bat, to where you have a laminate of several different types of woods, of hickories and tan oaks and things like that, or walnuts. They're all going to have different transitions of that mass, of that energy. But just go look at a strikeout pitcher, look at a pitch to contact guy. Greg Maddux was never a power pitcher. He did strike out a lot of guys. but he was a more of a contact pitcher. If you really go back and look at it, check it out. It's on YouTube. Go check it out. Check out his 70-something pitch complete game. A lot of ground balls that game, and early in the count. He's throwing them early in the count, right down the middle. He's getting guys to swing at him. A lot of movement. They're going over the top of it. They're chopping them, or they're just popping them straight up. Simple math, simple physics. Guys, man, it's already been 30 minutes. We've already cut it in. Holy smokes. Got to check in with you guys next week because I've got a lot of stuff going on today. I got a million things going on. It's a busy, busy day. But I'm going to be back next week, as I always will. And we'll have another show, and we'll be talking about a lot of different fun stuff, too. We're probably going to end up having to bump this show to an hour because I just run out of time to talk too much about too much of this stuff. And plus, we're probably going to have to start bringing some guests on, too. It's just been too much fun. I have too much to talk about. And I enjoy you guys being on here, and I enjoy talking with you guys and having these conversations about whatever in sports or, frankly, in life. It's always fun to have these conversations. So thank you so much for tuning me in this week. Tune in next week. I'll catch you guys here soon. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure, fuelsportsnetwork.com. Check it out. Check out all the other great shows over there. Got tons of stuff always coming out. So check it out. See you guys next week. Talk to you later. See ya.